All right. Next prompt is that Austin and Hunter were bullies or are bullies.
Yeah.
Tony, did you want to start off?
I hear this a lot. I think it's just people that want to push this idea so that they can just get Carmelo freed. There's no evidence of that. I'm surprised that there haven't been more stories surface about the boys' bullying behavior in the past. I mean, if anything, it kind of tends to. I tend to think that they're actually pretty good dudes. Now, maybe they may have, acted untoward on this event, but historically, they don't seem to be bad guys. And but to be honest with you, I don't think that Carmelo is necessarily a bad dude either. I mean, yeah, he got in a little bit of trouble at school for a few things, but for the most part, I think
Yeah, that's all right. So that's where my bad, Johnny. Sorry about that. Let me let you finish. Go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead. I think I'm finished.
Right. Now, that's another social media talking point on both sides, because it hasn't really been any evidence to what these topics is bringing up. Right? It's stereotypes. That's what that's what it comes down to, stereotypes. Like I had like 10 people in my comment section this morning talking about Karmelo Anthony was posing with a gun and he's this thug. And I'm like, that was an airsoft gun. Like y'all people get so entrapped into stereotypes to where like it's not really any evidence to back up half the stuff they're saying. One person told me that he was suspended months before for having a knife. Then another person told me when I showed them that he scheduled to be at that track meet and compete, they told me, oh, he got suspended that morning for having that knife. I'm like, it keeps changing and changing every time you bring up something to rebut their feelings. So for me, it's just a talking point. They're going to have to bring that up in court. I'm only going by what was said in the police report, because that right there is, we know that's going to be some type of evidence and used in court. That was a bully and all of that. They need other stuff to show proof of that.
I don't think that that's admissible. On either side, either Carmelo or the Hunters, the Metcalfs, their past bullying behaviors or whatever trouble they got into is not going to be admissible. The judge won't allow that in.
I'm saying it will be relevant. It will be. Sorry about that. It can be brought into evidence, but it will have to be a witness. That means it have to be someone who can attest to something that they did of that nature, because that shows their history of it. Just like with Karmelo Anthony, they're going to try to bring up stuff from his past to show a trend of his behavior, which is admissible, but someone has to admit it. So you will have to have someone who's quote unquote a victim of their bullying to come on the stand and say, well, yeah, they did this to me at this point and before, stuff like that. That's why I don't really get into it all that much, because there's certain things that will have to come out in court for it to even be relevant.
John?
I'd just like to say that I've never seen a case where either the victims or the defendants' past crimes or behaviors or anything like that was admissible in the current case. I'm not as familiar with Texas law as I am with other states, so I'm not sure how it works there. I've never seen it brought in, though.
I would think the only way that it feels relevant if they can show in the past where the bullying was intended towards Carmelo, like Austin and Carmelo had previous interactions in the past, then that would make sense. But any bullying, because bullying could be a lot of things. Bullying could be giving somebody a wet willy or a wedgie or punching people. It could be a lot of different forms of it. So unless they have proof relevance that it was towards Carmelo, that Carmelo would have perceived and known about it, but apparently Carmelo didn't know him. They could have been church boys to him or actual bullies. He doesn't know.
All right, so go ahead.
Well, we went through this with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And I went through pretty heavily the whole admissible evidence deal. And it comes down to probative versus prejudicial. How important is it for the jury to hear this? And how damaging is it to the person's character? And quite frankly, unless there's a very strong nexus to the actual crime or let's say, event, they're not going to allow it. I don't see any of Carmelo's or Hunter's or Austin's past indiscretions being admissible here. And that actually works in Carmelo's favor, by the way.
Yeah, I agree too. Carmelo's stuff also doesn't matter either. It's all what matters is what happened at that date.
His previous suspension for the knife thing, that's a little dicey. I still don't think it will be admissible, but I could see the argument for it. But the other stuff, no. I mean,
they don't even need it.
I mean, the view of it is that if you have an event, let's say an event where somebody dies, and you want to convict somebody, you got to convict them on what happened there. You can't convict them on who they are or what kind of person they are. It's called character evidence, not admissible in a criminal trial.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's exactly what you were saying, right? And it will have to be based upon the past history that they had with each other. They, in all consistency, says that they don't have a past history. So what happened prior to that meeting doesn't really hold any weight because they didn't have no altercations unless you can show that they had some altercations prior to that. So you'll have to show that they ran into each other somewhere and they did something to Karmelo Anthony or Karmelo Anthony did something to them that'll make them act the way they acted. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't really, like I said, it's talking points. It's the media, right? Just like everybody is saying how they paint Karmelo Anthony as this thug and he's this and he's that. And so guess what? I'm gonna counteract that by saying the twins are bullies. That's all it is. It's just a counteraction. You're saying Karmelo is a thug. We're going to say the twins are thugs and they're bullies.
I agree with that.
I think this is kind of a moot point just because I don't think any of it's going to be allowed in the trial anyway. So
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like. That's what I've been saying from the jump. Like, I'm like, if people actually listen to when I talk instead of listen to respond, I've been saying that from the start. Let's just concentrate on what was in the police report and what is not in the police report, because it's a lot that is not there, and it's a lot that we don't really know that's going to have to come out in court of what transpired under that tent.
Let's move on.
I mean, that would only be relevant. Go ahead.
This next prompt, I'm not sure about, but I'm going to read it as you wrote it. The defense must prove their case by the preponderance of the evidence. You want to explain that? Because that's not how it works. Absolutely. So I'm not sure if that was a mistype by you or...
I brought this up because Cincy and I have been going back and forth in a raging battle over this. And the question now becomes, who has to prove that it was not self-defense? Okay. And this is going to take a few minutes. All right. I'm sorry, but this is kind of interesting. So Karmelo is going to be claiming self-defense. Does he have to prove it was self-defense, or does the prosecution have to prove that it wasn't? Okay. Back in the day, under common law, it was always considered that an affirmative defense, the defense had to prove that it wasn't, the defense had to prove that it was self-defense. Now, over time, states started changing that, and they started shifting the burden of proof onto the prosecution. Texas was one of the last ones that decided that let's shift the burden over onto the prosecution. However, they left that whole bit about it being on the defense in the statute. So ultimately, what it comes down to is the statute claims that for an affirmative defense, the burden of proof is on the defense. However, Texas claims that self-defense is an affirmative defense, but it appears that in Texas, the burden of proof, self-defense is a simple defense. So the burden of proof is on the prosecution. And I have warred with lawyers on this. I have Anders Weinstein, by the way, has been very helpful. I've been communicating with him on email. I've been in legal forums, law forums on this. And as far as I can tell, somewhere along the line, Texas decided to prosecute or place the burden of proof according to a simple defense, not an affirmative defense. Therefore, my original argument was wrong, but I was for the right reasons. Okay, that's
My
a lot.
question is, why do you have it? My question about this prompt is, why does it say a preponderance of the evidence? Because in a
because it was
case
a
like
prompt.
this,
It's a
okay, because
prompt.
yeah, I was going to say in a case like this, it's never going to be a preponderance of the evidence. It's going to be beyond
No,
reasonable doubt. Will be the
and I agree with 1250. 1250 was right, but for the wrong reasons, in my opinion. But okay.
okay.
Um,
Well, 1250. Do you want to respond?
Well, no, hang on a second.
Remind me something.
Okay.
Okay.
The actual burden of proof is on the prosecution. However, what Texas has written in their statutes is extremely misleading. They claim that affirmative defense is on the defense. Lawyers all over the place will tell you that self-defense is an affirmative defense, but it's not. I should say, but for the burden of proof, it's not considered an affirmative defense. It's complicated. So the idea somehow that you can deduce this by looking up the statute, it's wrong. And I would love for a lawyer to come through and explain to me where this is so stated in the statutes, but I can't find it. Okay. But it's a mess. And I've been tearing my hair out for the last 3 days over this.
All right. So the preponderance of evidence means more than likely.
The freedom event at Bob Mills is just so big, and it means I'm giving you a ton of free. Like this $400 mood base, an exclusive at Bob Mills with wireless remote and LED lighting for nighttime safety. Free. So with the purchase of this Queen Marvino mattress with a gel-infused foam,
That's all it is. How it's written is more than likely, but it's up to the prosecution to prove without a doubt. So that's where it comes in at. You feel me? That's why they say that defense only has to garner doubt in the prosecution's case in order to win a case, because they have to prove without a doubt. So the defense job is to prove. They do have something to prove. They have to prove with preponderance, meaning more than not, that it was possible or probable. If I'm saying the right word, I'm not that bright, you know what I mean? That
You're plenty sharp.
that he acted in proper self-defense. So basically, they just have to put doubt within the prosecution's thing. And that's what I was telling Johnny from the start. Like, yes, they have something to prove, but it's not their job to prove without a reason of doubt. So that's what I say. Like, two things can be right at the same time because it's two parts to it.
You've explained this argument about 5 times to me, and I still don't get that. I mean,
I understand that. I can explain it to you. I can explain what he's saying. He's saying that the preponderance of the evidence is not what the prosecution has to prove. It's what the defense has to prove, that the self-defense of the preponderance of the evidence points to self-defense, not the other way around.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're saying, 1250.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. More than likely, like likely or not. So basically like a 51 to 49%. But the prosecution needs the whole 100 to say that it was not self-defense at all.
I get it.
Okay, no, the claim that the defense must prove that a preponderance of evidence, that according to a preponderance of evidence, and the prosecution must prove beyond reasonable doubt are completely separate things. They are diametrically opposed. And the Supreme Court even weighed which one was proper. Under Martin versus Ohio, they deduced that if the state wants to claim that it's on the defense to prove by preponderance evidence, it can. It's not unconstitutional, but states have shifted towards putting it on the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubt. They're not the same thing. You can't get one from one to the other. They are diametrically opposed. Okay, I wanted to get that out there. That this is complicated. It is, and I still haven't sorted it out.
John, did you have something to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, so ultimately, I think we're putting too much weight on who has to prove what. Ultimately, what's going to happen is the prosecutor is going to come out and they're going to present what they think happened. And in there, by default, it's going to show that it wasn't a self-defense thing. They're going to say he didn't have a knife. It's going to be included in their story of what they're trying to tell the jury. I think ultimately that's what's going to end up happening.
But I disagree with you on that it doesn't really matter, because if the defense has to prove beyond reason, or if the defense has to prove in the preponderance of evidence, that means Karmelo has to take the stand. But if it's on the prosecution, he doesn't have to. So it does make a difference.